What's up, everybody? Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. I wanted to put this in the beginning. Of course, we are coming to you live from Gotham Production Studios, which is our home here for X Drinking Buddy. Remember to subscribe on Patreon, patreon.com/Brennan Tassif. You can also follow on social media at X Drinking Buddy on Instagram, Twitter, and follow me at Brennan T Comedy on all social media. Check out BrennanTComedy.com for the upcoming shows. And don't forget to get your X Drinking Buddy merch. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Boom. That's it. Easy peasy.
Grab me a beer and grab me a coke. We about to sit for an hour, bullshit and tell jokes. And please don't mix it up, cause he done sobered up. Brennan T Comedy on your social media feeds. And Brennan Tassif is your ex drinking buddy. Brennan Tassif is your ex drinking buddy. Brennan Tassif is your ex drinking buddy. Brennan Tassif is your ex drinking buddy.
What is up, everybody? Welcome into another edition of Brennan Tassif is your X Drinking Buddy. I am your host, Brennan Tassif. If you're new to the program, quick rundown of the show. I used to be everyone's favorite drinking buddy. It was my favorite thing to do, hang out with friends, get drunk, do drugs, get in all sorts of trouble, and then reminisce about those crazy stories. I am sober now, but it's still one of my favorite things to do, hang out with someone and reminisce about the crazy old days. Most weeks I'll be joined by a guest. This week is no exception. All the way from New York City, Jeremey Crittenden.
What an intro.
What's up?
Hey, not much, man. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm really well. Thanks for having me on. This is fun.
Thank you for coming on. Before we get too far into anything, I know you don't need any help with this, but plug everything up front.
Oh my gosh. Follow me on Instagram, Jake
Big
Crittenden.
time following, baby.
Gotta get it. If you like your gay thirst traps, that's the place. It's a one-stop shop.
It is the place.
I'm on TikTok. Hi, Jake Critty, because I was the last person to get on TikTok.
Yeah.
And someone had already stolen my name.
Oh, son of a bitch.
I know. At least they're not doing anything with it.
Yeah, that's
At
true.
least they've given me that. And yeah, I mean, if you follow me on Instagram, you'll find out when comedy shows are coming up. And
Perfect.
all that fun stuff.
Yeah, I did 2 open mics back in 2009, and I changed everything, and everything thus moving forward was Brennan T Comedy. So now when anything comes out, like a platform or anything, I immediately snatch it up.
Oh, yeah. I've got an OnlyFans just so I have Jay Critty. Like, there's nothing on there. I get messages all the time from people going like, are you going to show us your dick or not?
Yeah.
Maybe that's...
Hey.
I want to keep the option open.
Just in case.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. Yeah, because now whenever a new platform comes out, I have to snag up Brennan. And luckily, my name is unique enough to where, especially if you throw comedy at the end of it, you can kind of get away with it. But because you shorten it to Critty, I'm sure it's they just fucking take it.
Well, yeah, and it's so. But I every once in a while I'll do a little search, like I'll search for Jay Critty because you'll find like spam accounts or people impersonating you or whatever. And there's I think it's a James Crittenden or something somewhere in the U.S. who's started using Jay Critty _OG as he's like the OG Jay Critty.
Son of a bitch.
Just bitch didn't get to the name fast enough.
Not at all.
That's right.
Hey. You've got enough like clout to be like, hey man,
that's
back
right.
the fuck off.
Yeah,
this is my corner.
Yeah, trademark it.
I wanted to ask you. I'm so happy you're on the show. You've got so much going on because you do comedy, you do the fitness stuff. You used to be in radio, so I guess I always ask all my guests this because, especially guests who are comedians, because stand-up is such a niche thing. Mm-hmm. How did you even find that? Like to do stand-up?
Yeah. It was always, growing up, like I was obsessed with SNL. I was obsessed with, like an evening at the Improv that you get on TV. Anything that was sort of like comedy, stand-up related, I just absolutely devoured it. I thought it was the coolest thing in the world.
And growing up, where was that?
Medicine Hat, Alberta, Canada.
There we go. You said you were an immigrant, so I wanted to make sure everybody knew.
Yeah.
You're from Canada.
Yeah. But I always did theater. Like I'm an actor. I've been an actor for, professional actor for, 20 some years now.
God.
And, but doing like stand-up was always something that I thought, oh yeah, maybe one day I'll try that. Maybe one day I'll try that.
So because you liked it and you watched it a lot, you were truly a fan.
Yeah.
You kept thinking like, yeah, maybe I'll do that. But then you're doing like theater and plays and acting. And when did it kind of click? Like when was the first time you were ever on stage for stand-up?
For this year.
Was it really?
Yeah.
That's insane to me.
Dude, I've only been doing this like 6 months.
I know, and that's crazy because you already have such a big following and stuff. So you're just kind of like, yeah, let's do it.
Well, and here's the thing is like you're doing theater and all that stuff. You're kind of like building up a lot of the skills around it.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So.
Well, then also doing radio, you learn how to talk and
Yeah, exactly.
You're a wordsmith of sorts.
Well, we try.
Yeah.
We try. But yeah, so when I turned 40, I'm 41 now.
Okay.
When I turned 40, I had this like, I don't have a thing about my age, but like I did have this moment of going like, okay, I'm midway through.
Yeah.
If I'm lucky, I'm at the halfway point right now.
I had that at 25. The way I was drinking, I was like, yeah, we got about 20 left.
Yeah. If I get through the 30s, I'll be thrilled. But so I decided, I was like, there's shit in my life that I keep saying like, oh, I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. I'm going to start doing those things.
Yeah.
Because if I look back now at the first 40 years, I feel like it was defined by relationships with other people. You know, when you're a kid, it's defined by the relationship with your family. I was always married, like I was in long-term relationships, always defined myself by my partners.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, the next half, it's going to be about, I'm going to define myself by the things that I want to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I signed up for a stand-up comedy class.
What was the class?
It was a Laughing Buddha.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I've had a few guests on who started there.
Nice.
So when did you move to the States?
I moved to the States in, like, moved here 2019.
Okay.
But I was back and forth from Canada a lot as of, like, 2016, 2017.
Okay. And when did you get into, so you acted, obviously, I'm assuming all through, like, high school, and did you go to school for theater in college?
I went to school for film acting.
Okay.
But then I had a career in musical theater for, 15 years before I really started doing television.
What? So, yeah, I want to, let's go through this entire timeline.
Sure.
This is fascinating
It's
to me.
bananas.
So, growing up in Alberta, Canada, you're a wee lad, and you're like, I want to get on stage. I want attention.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly
that's what we all did.
Yeah.
All of us in this industry, in the arts. I was a kid, and my parents were like, he's insane. Like, we need to put him somewhere where people will look at, because I'm like running around doing impressions like, look at me, look at me, look at me. So they put me into theater when I was very young as well.
Nice.
Because they were like, we have to find an outlet for this.
Right.
And then unluckily, Jackass was a big thing when I was a teenager.
Oh my God, of course.
So there's like a Brennan Staples himself video on YouTube and all this kind of crazy stuff.
Damn.
But then I found comedy, and then it all kind of worked out for you.
Slightly healthier outlet.
At least I'm not hurting myself anymore. God.
At least not physically. Damn.
Yeah. So as a kid, you get into theater.
Yeah.
And then take us through all of it. Like, how do you end up getting into acting? You said you went from musical theater to then television. Mm-hmm. Is that in the state? Like, just go through the timeline. I know you have a heart out, so as quickly and condensed as you can. But like, how did it happen? Because you've done so much. Well,
when I was like, nobody in my family is in the arts, so I'm the only person who's really gone into entertainment or arts at all. And singing was really how it started. And when I was a kid, my mom would sing in the car, and that's where I say I learned to sing, was singing with my mom in the car to like Fleetwood Mac and Roxette tapes, And so I went into choir when I was in elementary school, and then that naturally led into doing, musicals in junior high and high school. And that's really when I fell in love with it. I went away for one summer and did like essentially theater camp.
Yeah.
And went like, okay, this is exactly what I want to do for the rest of my life. Turned 18, moved out to Vancouver, BC.
Yeah.
Went to a film acting school.
When someone wants to make it in acting, they move to Vancouver.
Yeah.
Duh.
Yeah.
Everybody knows that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. You didn't do that?
This is
weird.
A crazy question. Do you know a young woman by the name of Candace Bryant?
I don't think I do.
Damn it. She's someone I work with, but she's an actor also from that same area.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So and it was weird because someone else we just hired at the restaurant was like, oh, I used to act too, and I'm from Canada. And Candace was like, it's a big fucking country, Brennan. Because you know me, I'm ignorant. I was like, you two must know each other. Then they started talking. They went to like the Sam Dance Academy.
Yeah,
and I was like, son of a bitch.
Yeah. So when you said, do you know? I was like, brace yourself because you probably will.
Yeah.
It happens all the time.
That's why I was like, oh, maybe. Because it was that same kind of region. So you go to the university to study film acting.
Yeah. It was like a little private school that was just for like acting.
Yeah. Which method? Meisner?
I did a little bit of Meisner. It was like a little bit of a mix of everything.
That's
like
good.
It depended on what teacher
Diversity
you were
is
with.
important, yeah.
Yeah. That place went bankrupt while I was there.
Of course.
And then I was working at a gay bar, which was one of the craziest places I've ever worked in my life.
At 19?
Yeah.
18, 19, 20?
19 years old.
Yeah.
Immediately,
Were you big into fitness at this time too?
No.
Okay.
Not at all. Fitness was kind of like, I had a gym membership. I might go like once a week or something like that. And then a friend of mine got me a job at a radio station, like editing audio at 4:00 in the morning.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you went from the acting school, it goes bankrupt, you're working at this, the gay bar, and then you end up at the radio.
At a news radio station.
A news radio?
Yeah,
so it's not
from
even
gay
like...
bar to news radio.
Oh my God.
A natural pipeline. You know what I mean?
So it's not like, hey, wacky in the morning. It's like,
No.
ladies and gentlemen, there's been a tragedy.
Yeah. Yeah. Like
You're
early
like-
on, I was
and you're in
covering
the
like
back
9/11.
Yes.
I think actually when I started there, I was like playing like the gayest dance music in my little studio, and all these like broadcast journalists are out in the newsroom being like, "What?
The
have
second
we
tower
done?"
is down. The second tower.
I have to praise you like I should, That old story.
A tale as old as time,
Yeah.
some would say. So what happens at the radio station?
I remember saying to them one day, "Hey, I would be really good on the radio," and they were like, "That's cute. We all went to school for this."
Yeah, broadcasting and
Yeah.
everything. So are you still working at the gay bar while you're at the radio station, or you leave the
No.
bar to go to this gay
Yeah, I left
radio
the bar to
station?
go to the
Okay.
radio station.
So you're no longer getting an outlet for your art.
Yeah.
Because
like I was doing like community stuff
Yeah,
and like
okay.
things wherever I could, but yeah.
That's why I always ask, because it's a weird thing for me as a comic, and I'm sure you as an actor now doing comedy, it's a weird thing because like when we don't have an outlet, it's very obvious.
Yeah.
Because we'll start acting out in different ways, and
Yeah.
people are like, "Hey man, like what's wrong with
Yeah.
you?" And
Yeah.
it's like, I just need to die. I need people to look at me.
I need to dance. Yeah.
just need to dance. So you're at news radio, you're still doing community theater and stuff
Sure.
like that. And then how do you get on the air?
So I thought to myself, like, I'm not going to become like a real radio reporter, but I could be an entertainment reporter.
Yeah.
And so
Oh, that's
after a
genius.
while, I would just, like every day at the end of my shift, I would just take, because we're all news. So there was like, 2 or 3 minutes every half hour that was entertainment.
Yeah.
So I would record up 2 to 3 minutes of like a little entertainment section, just as you would hear it on the radio. And I would just leave it for management.
Wow.
And I did that every single day.
You're goddamn right you did.
And after a while, they started to give me little air check sessions. And then after a while, someone didn't leave the "here's what's new at the movies this week" for the morning show. And so I showed up to work and they said, "Do you want to be on the radio today?
And
You have to get everything else done and you have to get these 3 stories produced." And I was like, "I'm your girl." And we did it. And then a few months after that, I was a full-time entertainment reporter.
Wow.
Yeah.
So so obviously your shift has changed. You're no longer just cutting stuff at 4 a.m, or
Yeah.
are you?
No.
Okay,
That was
okay.
it. That was it. I moved out of that job and I was like full-time. So I was, going to events at night,
So
showing up to record.
before you got on the air,
Mhm.
so in that weird in-between time, because I always love these minute details, that weird
Yeah.
in-between time, are you still working that 4 a.m. shift? Like when you're cutting, when you're doing the 2 to 3 minutes
Yeah.
of basically your demo,
Mhm.
that's from the 4 a.m. shift.
Yeah.
So you're working what, 4 a.m. to like
I think I was
12?
working like 4 to 12. Yeah. Because I think our show ended at, oh my gosh. Yeah, I think our show ended around 10. So there was still a little bit of work to do
Yeah.
after that. We do it like an air check session every single day. And so yeah, 4 to 12, I think is roughly what life was.
And then you get this opportunity,
Mhm.
you crush it,
Mhm.
and then they end up putting you on the air, and now you're hotshot entertainment
I'm that
reporter.
guy.
Yeah.
I'm that guy who's getting invited to every opening, invited to like,
Is this big? I'm assuming this is still in Vancouver.
yeah.
So
Yeah,
is there a lot of? I'm ignorant. I'm not allowed in Canada because of the 2 DUIs. I'd never been, and now I'm not allowed.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they're considered felonies. It's a whole thing.
Is that real? Holy shit.
Yeah, I'm not kidding. I have to write a letter to the magistrate or somebody high up.
Oh my gosh.
And it has to be 5 years after I completed all my stuff in the United States.
Wow.
So like my probation ended in 2019 or 20.
Okay.
So I'm not legally allowed to even try to go into Canada until 2025.
That's so extra.
And then I have to write a letter to like a magistrate or somebody and pay a $5,000 fine in order to be allowed in the country. Anyway.
Wow.
So I'm a little ignorant when it comes to Canadian stuff.
Naturally.
So is Vancouver a big entertainment hub? Is that like the New York or LA of that area, BC?
Yeah, a lot of people call it Hollywood North. It's very, there's a lot of film and TV production there because it's only a couple hours from LA.
They did Suits there.
Did they do Suits there?
I thought they shot Suits in Vancouver.
I think it might have been Toronto.
But it was in Canada.
But it was in Canada, yeah. But anyways, a lot of stuff shoots there. Like X-Files, all of the X-Files was shot in Vancouver.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Tons and tons of stuff. Stargate was Vancouver. I'm like, anybody listening to this that knows Vancouver is going to be like, yeah, you lived in Vancouver a while ago. You have no idea what's happening there now. But yeah.
So there's a lot to do as
there's
the
a lot of
entertainment
opportunity.
reporter,
Absolutely. Yeah. And then, they saw like local arts and stuff. So it was really interesting. I covered stand-up comedy. God, I interviewed Dustin Diamond. Remember Dustin Diamond?
Yeah, I remember. God rest his soul. Yeah.
His publicist pitched me. He's like, he's coming to town. He's doing a show. We're trying to get some press. I was like, okay, cool. And she went, here's the thing.
Any publicist who starts a conversation with, here's the thing.
Yeah. You can't ask about Saved by the Bell. And I went, so if we can't talk about Saved by the Bell, there's no point in doing this interview.
Then we're not,
because that's what anybody's going to be interested in. The fact that he's coming to town to do a stand-up show is cool, but the way into that is it's Screech from Saved by the Bell.
Yeah.
And she went, yeah, you can't bring it up. If he brings it up, it's fine, but you can't bring it up. I went, okay. I said, we'll roll the dice on this. He sat down. It was the first thing out of his mouth. It was the first fucking thing out of his mouth. It's like, okay, here we go.
God, that's such a weird thing.
Yeah, I know.
You can't talk about it. Don't talk about it. Don't even bring it up. And then he sits down and he goes, yeah. So
Saved by the Bell.
I played Screech on Saved by the Bell, right?
Yeah,
it is weird to see those reruns and then to see what happened to him. I feel
know.
It's so tragic because like Mario's killing it and Zach is killing it.
Yeah.
I'm spacing her name. The lead woman.
Elizabeth Berkley?
No. The lead. The hot one.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. The brunette.
3 names. Now she only has 2 names because she got
Amber
divorced.
Thiessen.
Tiffany Amber
Tiffany
Thiessen.
Amber Thiessen. Thank you.
God, we killed it. Good job.
Yes.
But yeah, she was on the show that I watched, White Collar, that was on USA. It ran for like 10 years or 5 years or something.
Good
so
for her.
like, but they were all like, and then Dustin got into stand up, and I had never seen it. He came through Florida a bunch, and I had never seen him, but I heard stories, and it was like, oh man, that sucks.
Yeah.
So when you interviewed him, was he good? Was he like?
Yeah,
because he was
cool.
on and off the wagon and stuff. So I didn't know if he was like in one of those.
No, he seemed pretty good. I mean, it wasn't. He was very chill. It was very like. I think he felt like a big fish in a small pond that day. He seemed very confident, maybe a little cocky, but he was a nice guy. The interview was fun.
Are you in suits and ties in these interviews? Are you like all dressed up?
No, this is chill. It's radio. Okay. Nobody gives a shit what we look like.
Oh, yeah, it's radio. I keep... Because radio is such a long gone art form, I always forget. I always imagine like Fox News or CBS or something like dressed up.
But listen, a lot of those like the old school guys that had been there a long time, like the newsies, a lot of those guys did show up. And if they had a big day, they'd show up in a suit and tie for sure.
God dang right.
It might not be a nice suit and tie.
But hey, it's still suit and tie. Well, and also too, I'm sure a lot of those guys and gals were able to transition into podcasting and stuff.
Sure. I mean, actually, yes, absolutely.
This isn't crazy long ago.
No.
So you're at the station. You're doing entertainment. Is this like the greatest thing in your life up to this point? Like being able to go to all these parties and just like let loose and have fun? Yeah,
it was a lot of fun.
The reason I ask is because we have a story about a radio party that I want to ask you about.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun, and I did feel like I was cock of the walk. I felt like a big deal,
I've never heard that saying, and I almost threw up all my water. Cock? What is it? Cock with the walk?
Cock of the walk.
Cock of the walk.
I don't know where it comes from. I don't really know what it means, but you hear it and you're like,
good.
I know that guy.
Yeah, that sounds. So when you sent me the story that said radio party, was this at this radio station?
Yeah.
Okay. Was it? What was it? Take us through it. What happened?
Okay, so it was a holiday party. So this is the first like big corporate job I've ever had in my life.
Yes.
And so the first year that I was
What was the name of the bar you worked at before?
The bar that I worked at before, the gay bar?
Yeah.
The Odyssey.
The Odyssey.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got it. That's another one.
Got another one.
Glad
there.
I asked.
Yeah. This is a great period of my life.
Look at this. Look at me being a great host. The first two stories you sent me are the first two stories we've actually touched on.
Yeah.
Already. We'll do the Odyssey one first.
Okay, let's talk about the Odyssey.
Yeah.
Okay, so
you're 19 years old.
19
you're
years
working
old.
at this bar.
Yeah. So I had gone to the bar a lot, and I don't it's like arrogantly went in there one day, and I was like,
Have you been out for a long time at this point?
Yeah, I came out when I was 16.
Okay.
Yeah. And
yeah, I guess because I grew up in the South, so Vancouver would be the opposite of that. Because Drew talks about it a lot on stage and stuff, like coming out a little later in life and things like that.
Right,
but
right.
I'm sure Canada's a lot more open-minded than.
No, 16 was still pretty early. I was the only gay person I knew. I had to watch where I go and when I went there. Let's not get it wrong. 16 was young.
I apologize.
Medicine Hat, Alberta is like the middle of Texas, but Canada.
I was like, oh, Canada, open-minded. You were like, absolutely not.
No, absolutely not. I've been called the F slur more times than I can count by Canadians.
Oh, man. So there goes your reputation, Canada.
Yeah,
Canada. Yeah. So you come out at 16.
Yeah.
So then at 19, what were you? I'm sorry, I cut you off. You were saying you walked into the bar and you were just like, I'm going to work here?
Yeah, I want to work here. And they gave me a job serving. This is a nightclub. So serving in a nightclub, you don't see it very often, but that job is pure chaos. Pure chaos.
I can't, as someone who's been a server for a long time, I couldn't imagine cranking up the number of people, lowering the amount of space, and then blaring music to it.
Oh, man, it's nuts. Nuts. I like tray above your head all the time, just absolutely loaded with drinks. I've served many times since then, and I think about the way I was serving at that bar, and I was like, I could serve anywhere. Yeah. I could serve anywhere from that experience working at that bar. But the way it worked is you would always go to one specific bartender, one specific spot on the bar to get your drinks for everybody. You'd buy your drinks from him. And my first shift, the guy that I ended up working with the most said, he's like, okay, so what's your poison? And I had no idea why this was being asked. So I answered honestly. And I said, tequila. And he went, oh, this is going to be so good. So at this bar, there's a tradition where if you get so fucked up that you can't, also, I keep swearing. Are we swearing on this podcast?
Yeah, you can fucking say whatever you want.
Yeah. If you get so fucked up that you either A, cannot finish your shift, or B, cannot make it up the like tiny, narrow, steep staircase to cash out at the end of the night, the next drag show is basically the roast of you.
Wow.
Yeah.
So drinking was not only allowed, but it sounds like encouraged at this job.
I think like maybe not by the owner and or managers, but among the staff. And yeah, like they weren't dumb. They knew what's going on as long as you're not like blatant about it.
Well, and also it's one of those things too where as someone who was a server, who is a server and was a server for a long time and had a serious alcohol problem, some of my greatest, like not greatest, but some of the best guest experience I've had is when I'm drinking a little. Yeah. You know, because I'm like, what we do? A birthday? Let's fucking go. Hey,
yeah. The number of times I would wake up in the morning going, I don't know how I got here. Who the hell is this guy? And just mountains of cash pouring out of my pants. Like, those were the best nights.
Those are the
best
bar. Days.
Yeah.
So at the Odyssey, if you drink too much, you get roasted at the drag show.
Yeah. So he was bound and determined that this was going to happen to me.
On your first shift?
On every shift.
Oh, okay.
Like he was like really gunning for this to happen.
So he would just slip you all this tequila?
Absolutely. So the first shot, like, in a rocks glass, like an ounce in a rocks glass is like this, right? Yeah. It's tiny. So that's the first shot of the night. And it's just like you go up to order drinks and just boom, he puts it on the bar in front of you before he gives you your drinks. You're like, okay, down it goes. The next one, just a little bit more. But by the time you're at like near the end of the shift, it's like gulp, gulp, gulp of tequila.
What's the timeline on that? Like, what time are you going into work?
Oh my gosh. I would say it was probably starting like, I don't know, 9 or 10, I feel.
At night?
Yeah.
Wow.
And you're going till 4 a.m.
Okay, so it's a late night spot.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Yeah. like I said, a lot of nights you just wake up at home going like, I don't know how I got here. But,
I don't know how this happened.
But I never once did he accomplish his goal. I always managed to finish. But there were times.
Always made it up the staircase.
Always made it up that little staircase at the end of the night. Always made it up that staircase.
God, good for you.
It's kind of impressive looking back on it.
Thinking about it. Because there are times I had to get sent home.
Oh, I'm surprised it never happened to me. Or maybe it did try to happen and I probably just pulled my pants down for the manager and he was like, all right, you can stay. But and I remember at one point when I was working there, near the end of my time there, I thought like, I can't keep doing this. I can't keep getting so drunk at work. So I was going to school at the same time.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm not going to drink for a while. But then I actually had to deal with horny, drunk gay men at work. And I was like, God. There's a reason I've been drinking all this time. Job. Yeah.
That's got to be intense.
Yeah.
Especially because like drunk people, especially men, gay, bi, straight, or otherwise, drunk men get aggressive.
Oh, for sure. For sure they do.
So, oh my God. Did you ever have to like, I'm sure this is the case, but I would, if you have a particular story, did you ever have to like ask, not only like ask someone to leave, or did you ever have to be like, hey, fucking cut it out?
Yes. All the time.
Yeah.
All the time. Yeah. All the time. And I
like it when service staff sticks up for themselves because I do it all the, like if someone, even at my nice steakhouse, if someone gets like cross with me, I'll be all like, hey, yeah, how we doing? And then I'll be like, sir, this is not, it's dinner.
Yeah.
Like, take it down.
Yeah.
And they're always like, excuse me? But I was talking to Andre about this, but it's like, this is real life.
Yeah.
Like I've been arrested 8 times. You think I care about this job enough to let you talk to me like that? Like, think about what you're doing, you know? But to your point, like to what you're saying is like, these people are just like, think because you're the server that you're theirs.
Yeah.
So you had to like.
It's a little like working in a nightclub is a little Wild West.
Yeah.
You know, like ultimately, if someone is being the worst, like, can I get them thrown out? Yes. But it's probably going to take me 20 minutes to work my way to somebody. Exactly. When I can just be like, if you put your hands down my pants one more time, you're going to be the fuck out of here. And I'm serious, you know? And then I don't serve that guy drinks anymore or whatever. Like, you take whatever you can into your own hands.
Yeah.
But that's what you got to do.
Fucking right.
Because I also like, listen, I've worked in enough places to be able to say, like, management is not always on your side.
Yeah, that's true.
Management is not always on your side. Yeah. It's quite often that it's like, if that guy putting his hand down your pants is the guy that's like buying a bottle every once in a while, good luck getting that guy thrown out. Yeah,
it's interesting because I've worked in restaurants like that. And I've worked in opposite ones where, like, I was a lead server at a breakfast place in Florida, and sometimes people would get so snippy because it's early in the morning and they've got somewhere to be, and or like especially on the weekends, it's like 2-3 hours before you get sat, and people would be snippy. And we've like threw people, and it's not, no one's drinking, it's not a party, like, but we've asked people to leave because they'll get snippy with the staff, and as the lead server, I'd be like, no, we don't talk to people like that. And then you go to the manager and you go, table 40, get them out of here, and they'd be like, you can't eat. And they'd be like, how can you? And we go, we've got a line out the door, man. Like, just get out. Like, bullshit. We don't need you. So yeah, that's awesome. That I love hearing stories about people. Did you ever have to slap anybody?
Ooh, no.
God, that would have been great.
No, I'm not that guy. I couldn't do that.
I mean, I talk a big game, but I wouldn't do it either. But if you just had to be like,
yeah.
I told you.
I'm sure I got slapped, but I just was so drunk that I can't remember.
God. So then you go to the radio station. We put all that life behind us. We're no longer staying out till 5 a.m. getting hammered. We're now at the radio station. We have a professional job at a professional place. And what happens at the holiday party?
So the first year that I was there, the holiday party was like classy affair, big ballroom at a nice hotel. Like sit down meal. There was like 1 hour of open bar before, and then like as much wine as you could get over dinner, right?
Yeah.
But because there's like so much food going on, by the time the meal is done, the party is over because everybody kind of got drunk beforehand, sobered up
and now you
dinner,
want to go home.
And now everybody just wants to like go home. The next year, there was like, a new vice president or whatever in the radio
That was
division.
lame.
That was lame. This guy decided, and I don't think I knew this going into the party because I don't think I'd eaten that day because I was like, I want all that prime rib or whatever they're going to be serving, right? I hadn't eaten that day. I was really excited for like a sit down moment, and I showed up
And it was at the Odyssey.
And it was at the fucking Odyssey, yeah. They're like, cocaine? And I got my boyfriend with me. And
so is this the same? Is it at like a nice ballroom again, or is it?
Yeah, slightly lower hotel, still big ballroom. But we walk in and it's just like a few like food stations. So it's more of a like mix and mingle and have like little hors d'oeuvres and an open bar.
The whole time?
Not the whole time, but enough time for like, you know,
tequila.
Must have been 20. Yeah, exactly. 20 years old, hadn't eaten all day. I probably weighed like 140 pounds.
Oh my God.
I got so wasted at that party. First of all, my boyfriend called one of his friends like, you have to come down here and rescue me because this Jeremy's a nightmare.
Oh no.
I know. No, but I was like, fair enough.
But
I was a nightmare. Absolutely threw up all over this hotel.
You buried the lead.
Absolutely threw up all over this hotel. And I believe like the executive assistant to the vice president of this radio company was the one that threw my ass in a cab at the end of the night.
Wow.
So super classy. I'm super awesome. The next like Monday at work, I get in and of course all my coworkers are like just taking the piss out of me. And one of them said to me, he's like, yeah, but Jeremy, you grabbed the vice president of the radio group. His name was Paul. Jeremy, you grabbed Paul's ass last night. And I'm like,
no, I didn't. No,
I would absolutely remember that. They were like, no, you wouldn't remember anything. You grabbed Paul's ass.
The vice president of the company.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, cool. So this is my last day working in radio.
It was nice to meet everyone.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. Treat. Thanks for all the free tickets. I appreciate you. So I am absolutely panicked.
Horrified. Yeah, that's yeah.
And I think I spent like most of that day just waiting for someone to like come and knock on the door and be like, hey, we need to talk to you in the other room.
You know, guys, I already packed. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Exactly. And I went out to like grab a coffee or something in the main kitchen, and there was Paul. And I'm like, you know, trying not to make eye contact.
Yeah.
And I think I went to move around. I was like, oh, excuse me. And he goes, now, Jeremy, don't grab my ass. And walked away. And I was like, oh my God, it fucking happened. No, but it had like, there was a tone to it.
Okay.
There was a tone to it. And I thought 100% this happened. Oh my God, this is the absolute
because you were so drunk, you thought they were fucking, there was a small, even if it was a tiny percent of you who was like, maybe I was joking about it and they're messing with me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Nope.
I've been there a million times.
This like sealed the deal to me. Absolutely. Nope. They were all fucking with me and they got the VP of the company in.
What?
Yeah. An iconic prank.
What?
Yeah. Isn't that amazing?
That is so good.
Yeah, I know. The man never respected me after that. Let's be real.
Yeah.
But like,
that's
what
hilarious.
A great teamwork. It was real corporate teamwork.
We were bringing everyone together. So their whole thing was like, Jeremy got so fucked up. You know what we should do? Let's play a prank. Yeah. Hey, Paul, the vice president of the company, you want to fucking prank this guy with us?
Exactly.
Wow.
You want in on this?
And you had no idea because you were so drunk.
No, I think it might have even lasted more than a day. Like this might have gone on for a little while.
Wow. I have that, obviously not anymore being sober, but I had that fear so often. Because I would drink at work, and then we would all go out after and drink after work. And, you know, I worked at Outback at the time. So, you know, we're getting off around like 9 or 10. There was always a bar within walking distance. We'd all get a couple drinks there. And then there were so many times where I'd be coming into work the next day like, what did you do? Like, just as I'm going down to work, like in my head thinking like, did I get drunk and try and kiss like so-and-so? Did I try and like, you know, did I flirt with so-and-so in front of their boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever?
Right.
And I was always so like, at least once a week, I had that dread of like, fuck, I'm going to get fired today. And then you walk in and everyone's like, oh, hey, Brennan. And, and you're like, oh yeah, nobody cares about me. Nobody cares.
No.
Nobody cares.
Absolutely not.
So staying on the timeline after the radio station, what ended up being the why did you end up leaving there?
I was starting my acting career at the time, so I actually kind of like came and went from the radio station a few times. I ended up like my first like professional show that I got my union card on was a production of Miss Saigon, And then I didn't have any work lined up
And that
after
was
that.
theater, or that was
Theater, yeah.
theater? Okay.
And then I went back into the radio station anchoring. I ended up doing like hard news. So I was anchoring overnights for a while, and then it would be like, filling in on the midday. And
This is crazy.
I know, it's really, really crazy.
Well, it's a long way from like in the editing bay, like, do you believe in that? And now you're like, ladies and gentlemen,
here's what's breaking news this hour.
breaking news this hour.
Yeah.
God, look at you.
It's nuts, right?
Fucking like watching a child grow.
It's cool. And like the lesson from that was just kind of like, I don't know, maybe I can do anything that I want to do.
Yeah, maybe if
just
I
fucking
just
dive
put my
in
mind
head
to it.
first, grab a couple asses.
And you're there.
There we are.
So you go back and forth from the radio station.
Yeah.
Then when you get an acting gig or something, you go back out.
Yeah.
What was the first like big, like when did you get to the point where you're like, oh, I can act full time, like for a while?
Yeah. I had booked there was this, the show ran off Broadway. I did a Canadian production of it, but it was called Altar Boys. And it was kind of like a send up about a Christian boy band.
Okay.
And I booked a production of that.
Boys with the Z?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you got it.
Yeah.
You're from the 90s,
Yeah.
So we had like a tour of that, and then like a sit down for the summertime, and so that was kind of like almost a full year of work. And then I think I had booked something else in there, so it was kind of like I think I can do this, and I can fill it in with other little like side jobs, just web design and shit like that.
Yeah.
To kind of make ends meet, and so that was like 2009.
Okay.
2009, 2010, somewhere around there. Yeah. So I wasn't making a ton of money, but I was
doing what you wanted.
Absolutely.
Yeah, doing what you love. So then when did you decide to move to the States?
Much later on. So I moved from Vancouver out to Toronto or near Toronto to start, and then ended up in Toronto shortly thereafter. But I met my second husband out in Toronto. He's American, and he was up in Toronto rehearsing for an actor as well. He was rehearsing for something in Toronto, and we met then.
Suits? Was it Suits? Is he on Suits?
No, he wasn't on Suits. You're really obsessed with Suits.
It was one of those shows that came out.
Did you binge it over the pandemic?
Not over the pandemic. I binged it after because it's a long story, but I had a disdain for Suits because they were replacing my favorite USA show with it back when it first came out. My favorite show was Burn Notice, and then Burn Notice was coming to a close. And Suits, they were trying to like push into that because Burn Notice was the most popular show on USA. They were trying to like pigeonhole Suits into that time slot. Right. And I was like, fuck Suits. Fuck anybody associated with this show that's trying to take over my Burn Notice. And then fast forward years and years later, when it came out on Netflix, again, I had a resentment towards it. And then I started watching it.
You got over the Suits beef.
I was like, God, this is a good show.
Good for you. That's growth.
Yeah. People say that.
Yeah.
I don't know. So that's why I keep bringing it up. That's a long-winded way of saying I like this show.
I like Suits. Yeah.
So you start dating an actor in Toronto, shooting something, and then that wasn't Suits. And then do you decide to move to the States with him?
Yeah, we decided to like try to make a long distance thing work. And at the time, I had like a communications job as like, paying the bills between acting jobs and things. So I could travel. That wasn't a problem. So yeah, I spent a couple of years just really going back and forth. And then, every time you cross the border, or at least every time I was crossing the border, we'd come down for like a couple of weeks or something. And so I thought, one of these days I'm going to get to the border and they're going to be like, nah, you need to take a few years off.
Use your time.
Yeah. So it was one of those things that I think like a lot of international couples go through.
Did you have to get a visa every time you came in?
Well, no, you get a tourist visa automatically. Like I can't remember what it's called, but like Canadians just like essentially show a passport, you're in, and you can be in for 6 months as a tourist.
Okay. Oh, shit.
Yeah. But that's still like within a calendar year, or like at any given moment, you can't have been in for the last 12 months more than 6 months in the United States.
Oh, so you could. I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
So if you were going like every other weekend or every other week, it would start to accrue, and then you'd be like, oh shit.
Absolutely. So we didn't really know at the time kind of where we wanted to be. Did we want to be in New York? Did we want to be in Toronto? And but we decided like the thing was we don't want to have some border agent say you can't be together.
Yeah.
And so we decided to get married.
Of a movie.
Right? Doesn't end that great, but
well, to quote Morgan Freeman in Shawshank Redemption, life's no fairy tale.
That's right.
So you end up getting married, and now you can just come and go freely.
No, that's
No.
that's like lockdown.
Plot twist.
Yeah. So when I was talking to a lawyer, they were like, well, where do you want to get stuck? Do you want to get stuck in the United States or do you want to get stuck in Canada?
Is when. Wait, what do you mean?
Well, because once you're going through immigration, they're not going to let you can't cross the border. So what would happen is, so if we got married, right, and I was in Canada and he was down here and I wanted to come and visit, they would say like, okay, well, you're married to an American. It seems most likely that you're going to come down and stay with your husband. So they look at that and go like, oh, you have stronger bonds to America than to Canada.
Oh.
So you're very likely to get rejected at the border. You get rejected at the border, that makes your immigration journey even harder.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. So you talked to a lawyer and they said, where do you want to, you got to pick a spot now.
Pick a spot now, and wherever that spot is, that's where you're going to stay until your immigration is done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that makes so much more sense now, because if you were to leave your country, they'd be like, well, then obviously you
don't have enough reason to go back.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So you said you were on a green card now. Did it work? Like did it work, but were you able to get, because my sister-in-law is from Spain originally, immigrated. She's a PhD and she's a doctor and all sorts of super fun, super smart stuff, like my older brother, who's her husband. And they live in Spain now. And
Nice.
it was such a fucking hassle and a half.
Yeah.
Because she was here on a student visa and then she was here on a work visa. And then they got married. But they got married before her visa was even close to running out because they wanted to get married. They love each other. And then her visa ran out and it was like she had to go back to Spain and like deal with it was like a fucking whole to do.
Yeah.
So for you, I don't know if it's any different coming from Canada because it's obviously not across an ocean and we have a lot, we're a lot closer with Canada as far as trade and economics and stuff like that. So was it easier to, like, how did the process go?
Slow, because I found it really overwhelming. I get anxious, and so I would like start to work on it and then like, put it away
And
for
you're
a
in
while.
New York at the time?
And I'm in New York, yeah. So just like burning through money.
Yeah.
And then the pandemic hit. And so once the pandemic hit, because so many things closed, there was a lot of stuff that you just physically couldn't get, like little bits of paperwork that you needed that just were not available.
Yeah.
So that really kind of extended things out a long time, and that was really, really difficult. But I have my green card now.
Beautiful.
So we got through it, but no, they don't make it easy. They want to scare you off with that.
Yeah,
100%.
they want to make it difficult. Yeah.
Yeah.
Something given has no value, I guess. So
Right.
They make you work for it.
They make you work for it.
Speaking of moving around and traveling, I wanted to ask you about Peru. Peru.
Such a great place. Have you been?
No.
Oh,
I've never left the country.
you've never left America?
I wasn't allowed to for a long time.
Oh, right, of course.
Not just Canada, but I'm a convict.
Right. So that makes travel complicated.
Yeah.
Right.
Now it's fine, but back, I didn't have any money before.
Sure.
Cocaine gets expensive.
Yeah.
You know.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
So yeah, I went to Peru. So after my first marriage ended, I was like, I gotta go.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We didn't mention that in the timeline. When was the first marriage? Was that the radio station?
Yes, we were together while I was working at the radio station.
Okay.
Yeah, very much around that time. Yeah.
So that was the boyfriend who was with you at the party?
No, different guy.
Oh.
Different guy.
Okay. So then you're with your first husband, you're at the radio station, you guys, that ends.
Yeah.
You meet your new husband.
Yeah.
You're now living in New York.
Yeah. Peru's in the middle. Peru's kind of in the middle, between husbands.
Okay.
Yeah. So after my first marriage ended,
Isn't life? Life is
again,
just
that old story.
Life is just in between husbands. Tale as old as time.
Mine certainly feels that way.
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
We changed it.
So I wanted to do something like the most physically demanding thing I could possibly find.
Have you gotten into fitness at this point?
No.
Okay.
No. Like flirting with it a little bit,
Yeah.
but like this is what I wanted to. I really do think this kind of kickstarted wanting to be more fit and like caring about my body. So I found this trip that was it was like a 10-day trek through the Andes. And
Jesus.
The last stop on it is Machu Picchu, which was the number one place in the world that I wanted to see.
Okay.
But an early stop in it, you see a whole bunch of different ruins. But this place is like an old ancient city, ruins up in the mountains called Choqquequirao. I might not be pronouncing that right. I'm sorry.
You said it with so much confidence.
Yeah, I know. And but the only way to get to it is either by a helicopter or by walking for 2 days.
Fucking climb, baby.
Yeah. So, like, the second day is just switchbacks up the side of a mountain for 6 hours.
Goddamn right it is.
Crazy. 40 minutes in, you're like, I can't do this. But you keep going. You learn about yourself on those kinds of things, right? And that's what I wanted. But this was a group trip. And there were these
people you know or people you don't know?
No, I went by myself. So I didn't know any of these folks.
I love that.
And
I'm a big solo guy.
Oh, I love it. I love traveling alone.
My girlfriend gets so mad because I'm always like, I'll be like, yeah, I'm at the club, like hanging. And she's like, you didn't want me to come with you? I go, it's not that I don't want you to come. It's just like, I'm so used to doing things on my own.
Yeah.
I just do like, she'll be like, what are you doing? I'll be like, I'm at the movies. She's like, with who? And I go, by myself.
Yeah.
Like
dinner alone, love it.
I'm just
Movies
so
alone,
used to doing stuff alone.
Yeah, me too. I really love it. I really do thrive solo. But there were these 4 guys on the trip from South Africa.
Okay.
And they booked this trip at the last second. This trip is the most physically demanding trip that this company that does adventure travel.
Yeah.
They specialize in adventure travel.
Gotta love that.
This is the hardest one they have.
It's got the big asterisk at the top and it's like, warning.
Yeah. There's like 2 trips on their like roster that are 5 out of 5 difficulty. And this was one of them.
Yeah.
These guys booked this thing at the last second. You're going like through crazy elevation changes. They tell you before you go on, you're going to experience every season on this trip. It's going to be snowing at the top and it's going to be sweltering rainforest at the bottom. So
not only that, but you're going to have elevation sickness and
all of that
oxygen
stuff.
deprivation and all that.
Yeah. I went 4 days early just to get elevation sickness and like weather that before starting the hike.
Yeah.
I can't imagine going through that and that hike. So these guys show up like the day the trip is starting. They have no gear. They're in T-shirts and shorts. All they've brought, T-shirts and shorts. I have like $3,000 in gear, base layers.
Wow.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Like I'm ready to go. These guys show up, absolutely nothing. And they're like, it's going to be fine. So usually at the end of every hiking day, you end up at, you end up at a campsite.
Yeah.
But there's usually like, again, this is the middle of nowhere, right? So there'll be like this little hut, this little shack, and there'll be a little lady inside selling, whatever you might need. And the world's worst beer.
Yeah.
And like bottles like this, like liter bottles of just carbonated piss.
Garbage beer.
Yeah. These assholes would buy every bottle.
Really?
Every single night. These guys would.
And are they keeping up with the trek?
Yes.
No way.
Yes. So the group like every day would kind of like split in half. There was half of us that were like really fast and then half that were normal paced.
Yeah.
And these guys were always up at the front of the pack.
What?
I know. It was crazy. I don't know how they did this. They'd be up all night drinking piss and then be up 6 o'clock in the morning.
Drinking piss.
Up 6 o'clock in the morning complaining about it. But, so there was one spot we got to and there's like beautiful valley. They went, bought all the beer. And I think we got there kind of early in the day.
Yeah.
So they bought all the beer. They burned through all that beer. And then they went back because there were still, hours to spend. And they're trashed, like trashed. And they go back to the little hut. And they're like, well, all we have is this. And they pull out like a water bottle, this beaten up water bottle.
Yeah.
And they're like, we've got this. And they were like, so is that vodka? And they went, no, it's like a grain alcohol.
No.
It was mystery alcohol in like a water bottle that looked like it had been run over by a truck. Just dirty and cracked and all this shit, right? They bought it.
Did they?
Yeah. And they drank it.
They probably were so drunk.
Oh my God, they were absolutely destroyed. I did try it, I will admit.
You tried it?
Oh my God, it was like rubbing alcohol, I swear to God. It was horrible.
That's what it sounds like.
Yeah. But these guys, every single day, they were up at the front of the pack. And then one day we got there was a mountain pass. We get up to the top of the mountains and we had to wait for the slower groups. We'd all do lunch together, right? There were these donkeys that bring lunch up. And it was like raining and cold at the top. And all they had was like a trash bag rain poncho.
And are they still in their T-shirts and shorts?
T-shirts and shorts. Absolutely like eaten by bugs. Hungover.
Wow.
At the top of this mountain just trying to stay warm together.
God, and they made it.
They made it.
Son of a bitch.
They made it through, but they were crazy. Those guys were, absolutely nuts.
That sounds nuts.
Yeah, it was fun.
I wanted to ask you, because we only have a few minutes left, the Drinking American story.
Oh my gosh.
Where is that?
Okay.
On the timeline.
This takes place kind of Canada, but this is when I was dating my second husband.
Okay.
And
look at that. We almost went completely chronologically.
Right, all the way through. And he used to be a bartender, a really great bartender.
At the Odyssey?
No, no, that was in Vancouver.
Yeah.
He was a bartender here in New York.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. And like the man can make a cocktail.
Oh, yeah. He's not from Canada.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
And so our first date, we went for great cocktails and stuff. So we decided to have this very early on in dating. We were going to have a cocktail night.
Oh, like a little mixer.
Yeah, absolutely. We bought a bunch of booze and he was just going to make like different cocktails. And it was so much fun. So here's the thing. Bartenders in America, or at least in New York, it's a heavy pour.
Yeah.
It's a heavy, heavy pour. Like your martini comes with an extra martini floating in it somehow. In Canada, it's like the laws are really strict. Yeah. Everything is measured really strictly. So like a martini in Canada takes up half the glass. So
as it technically should.
As it technically should.
The proper pour.
Yeah. So he's doing New York pours like crazy, right? And I'm trying to impress this guy. He's like a few years younger than me. And I'm like 2 drinks in, I am wasted.
Yeah.
Absolutely
You're not a big
wasted.
guy.
No. And he's doing fine.
Of course.
So I managed to get through the night. I think I did have to sneak off to the bathroom at one point to, empty out and brush my teeth.
Yeah.
And exactly. So spends the night. The next day, we're like out for a walk. And
you're dying.
Dying. Absolutely. I've never been more hungover.
Like, what hell is this?
What hell is this? I've never been more hungover. I'm really trying to impress this guy, right? And I think we were going past a Starbucks and I was just like, hey, can we just I'm just going to run in and grab, do you want anything from the Starbucks really quick? Ran in. I got so sick in that bathroom, I thought I was going to pass out.
So you ran into sick.
Oh, yeah.
You played it off like you were going to go grab a coffee.
Yep.
Wow. And you ended up like almost dying in the bathroom.
Yeah. Praying to the porcelain gods at Starbucks in Toronto.
Did he know what was going on?
No idea.
Wow.
He had no idea. I came out with a coffee. He doesn't drink coffee. So I just had a coffee and carried on our way. But I think I saved the relationship that day.
Wow.
Thank you. Thank you.
Look at you.
Yeah.
You don't think you get enough credit for that.
Thank you. I know that's a skill.
That's a
skill.
To be able to just play it on. And I mean, that's something that we kind of got really good at in my family was doesn't matter what's going on. We're going to play it off like everything's great.
Nice.
But it's a skill to be able to be like, I just needed a coffee.
I couldn't do it now. There's no way.
No way.
There's no way I could be that hungover now and get out of bed.
Well, and that's an interesting thing is I think about this sometimes because I haven't had a drink in coming up on 6 years. And it's weird to think about I don't even know any it's like Neverland from Hook. Like you forget.
Yeah.
It's been so long, I've forgotten.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, is a bad thing in the sense that it's that's not awesome for your sobriety, but it's also a good thing. And it's like when people come into work hungover, I'm like, I don't know what that's like.
Yeah.
Like I remember obviously the shitty times, but it's like, what are you, 17? What are we doing?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, really? You're 36 and you can't get a handle on it?
Right.
Like, come on, man.
Yeah. And now the funny thing is when I'm hanging out with my Canadian friends is now I'm that guy. Now I'm the guy doing a heavy American pour when I'm making drinks for everybody, right?
Everyone's like, what's wrong with you?
2 drinks in, everybody's fucking wasted. And I'm going another shot, everybody,
Oh, wow. Because you've gotten so used to it.
And I took a bartending course and everything. I really wanted to be bartending. And so I'm literally moved into that role.
Wow.
Yeah. Getting Canadians just illegally hammered. Yeah.
Hammered drunk.
Yes.
So how often do you go back to Canada?
I've really only...
Because you're in the States now.
Yeah, absolutely. I live here. This is home now. And this is I'm no longer married, but I love living in New York. When I was this tall, I knew I wanted to live in New York. So.
Yeah, I say it all the time. I used to have dreams, the actual vivid dreams of being on the subway and looking at the skyline.
Yeah.
And I had never even been here. I came here one time when I was like 14 for like a family trip, and we were like in the city itself for like a day or two.
Wow.
But I was always just like New York. It's New York or LA, New York, LA. And then I came to New York as an adult and I was like, oh, it's New York.
Yeah.
Like there's no way it's not New York.
100%.
I say it all. It's one of the greatest cities ever constructed.
Yeah.
Like people shit on it all the time and you can say what you want, but it's literally one of the greatest cities humankind has ever known.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't mind paying the absurd amount of rent that I pay when I can go like, oh, I can go to a Broadway show tonight. I can go to Carnegie Hall.
I can go, for me, because I'm so obsessed with stand-up, it's like, I can go to the stand and see some of the most famous comics in the world. Yeah. Like right now, actually, if I wanted to.
A friend of mine was doing just like, it was like an amateur showcase, and Jim Gaffigan
just shows
up and does like 15 minutes.
God.
Absolutely murders, It was amazing.
Yeah. And
that only happens here.
It only happens in New York. I wanted to ask you, because we got about a minute or two left, but when did the fitness and the influencing and like the social media, like when did all that blow up?
I really leaned into fitness hard as my second marriage was ending. I was working for Barry's. I was working in production for Barry's. And so like that's, again, like I deal with these emotional things in like a really physical way.
Yeah.
And so I really leaned into that. And at the same time, I had been posting more on Instagram just as a creative outlet.
Yeah.
I needed to scratch that creative itch, right? And the two of those things just kind of like, all of a sudden you're posting a bunch of thirst traps and your account starts to grow and people start going like, hey, will you
talk
about this on your Instagram for $100? And all of a sudden you're like, starting to grow in that way. And now I've added in comedy into the mix and people are responding to that as well. And it just kind of like, so it's funny. It is a good representation of who I am. Yeah. My Instagram is. And it's cool when I talk to people that have known me for a long time about it and they always go like, it's really you.
Yeah.
That makes me the most happy. Yeah.
Truly an artist and an entertainer.
Well,
stage acting, musical theater, radio, comedy.
Mediocre at all of them.
Hey, jack of all trades, master of none, as they say.
That's right.
Plug everything one more time.
I'm Jay Critty on Instagram, JCRITTY. Hi, Jay Critty on TikTok, but Instagram's really the place to go.
That's the place to go.
It's the place to go.
Let's get you over 100K. Let's do it.
Close.
You're right there.
Right there.
At Brennan T Comedy on all social media, BrennanTComedy.com. Thank you, everybody, so much for listening. One Man Show, January 16th, available on YouTube. So go check that out, and we'll talk to y'all next week. Boom.
Nice.
That was fun.
That was so much fun. I hope that